Welcome to Conversations with Ann Elizabeth, the podcast inspired by my book, I'm a Registered Dietitian, Now What?, where I have the absolute joy to sit back, relax, and have a conversation about nutrition with a variety of people who share their personal story of passion and purpose, especially registered dietitians. Today's conversation is with Kelsey Wigans, a registered dietitian and seed to table manager for Gilmore City-Bradgate Schools in Iowa. You may be wondering what a seed to table manager is, and so was I when my previous podcast guest, Ann Parker, mentioned Kelsey for the podcast. This is a great conversation about how a registered dietitian can make an impact with children when it comes to food, health, and being an active teacher in schools about agriculture and where food comes from. Kelsey is doing the most amazing things at her school, branching out much farther than just a school garden, including grant writing, a teaching kitchen, and a new upcoming Monarch butterfly house. Please enjoy my conversation with Kelsey.
11:30, so
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited for you to tell me about all the things dietetic related to you and how you kind of got interested in the field, and then just all the cool things that you are doing.
Sure.
So why don't you take me back to when you kind of had being a dietitian on your radar and how you kind of got interested in it?
Yeah. So thanks again for having me this morning. So I first got interested in dietetics, I think, kind of in high school more so when I was in 4-H, and I always had done family consumer science projects for 4-H. And so I wanted to attribute that to my mom because she really helped me, branch out and say like, oh, well, what about recipe substitutions and the chemistry behind it? And how can we make cookies better for you and still look great? And so doing a lot of 4-H projects really helped me with that. And then further along in high school, I thought it was really important to get fueled up, especially for volleyball tournaments. And so I really started looking into the nutrition behind what do I need in order to perform my best in athletics? And especially for volleyball, that was one of the things that I felt like I was good at. And I wanted to maybe pursue in college. And then a little bit further down the road, kind of multi-step story. My dad, in one of his farming magazines, he saw that dietitians were going to be, one of the most needed professions coming up, especially with all the baby boomers, declining in their health as they get older and really needing dietitians to help with that. So kind of family 4-H and sports driven, I would say, is how I got involved in dietetics. And here I am today working at Gilmore City-Bradgate, and yeah, a lot more stories along the way for that too. So.
Well, that's interesting. I think it's always interesting about that 4-H connection because I think for a lot of people that don't experience 4-H, maybe you can talk a little bit about like 4-H is very much, kind of just all those good basic skills that we don't probably get to learn a lot if you're not participating in 4-H or maybe don't have all those options where you live. So maybe just kind of share like a little bit more about 4-H and how that kind of helped thinking about recipes and cooking and things like that.
Sure. So I think for me, 4-H was a way for me to pursue my passion. So for whatever reason, I think, we got satellite TV at our house, which was a big deal. And I feel like I was always watching. It is. And I was, lived out in the country all my life. And I thought it was really cool to watch all these different cooking shows and things. And I got really interested in nutrition and creating recipes and things like that. But 4-H really allowed me to follow that passion and just pursue whatever I wanted. You look in the 4-H book and you find a category for whatever you might be interested in, say it's photography or creative arts or whatever it might be. You can find a category that you're interested in and then pick a project that you want to do within that category, and you create a write-up, tell the judges about everything that what your goal was, how you worked towards that goal, what were the difficulties of your project, and what you're hoping to learn next year. And I just think that was a really good way for me to, not only do a project, but think about, all the different possibilities that I could, dive into and really explore and think about future years. Is, I could lay out a plan for 3-4 years down the road and say, next year I really want to do a project about bread, and the following year I want to do, recipe substitutions. And the following year, I want to learn about what it takes to be a dietitian. So I thought that was really important for my career. And then, FCCLA was an important part too. And so we had both of those chapters within our school. I guess 4-H is more of a community outreach where we did a lot of community service activities too. And I guess I had livestock projects too, but, it just allows you to take hold of what you're really passionate of. And FCCLA does too, where you do STAR projects. And we did a lot of community things for that too. And I just think it's really important to be involved wherever you're at. And it started young because the more you learn at a young age, the more proficient you can become, as you advance towards your professional career.
Absolutely. I think it's like research for your profession starting at a young age. And I think that just probably sets you apart. I wish I would have had 4-H growing up. I know it was there. I just never participated in it. And it probably just wasn't on my radar. But I think that's such a great kind of, like you said, community. You just do so many, there are stuff, you do work with stock, you do work with animals, but there are lots of other great things that you can
definitely
do.
And I think, moving to Humboldt County in Northwest Iowa and, getting this job at Gilmore City-Bradgate, I thought, kind of the same thing as 4-H was really important and influential in my life. And so when I moved here, that was like one of the first things as I, kind of thought, why aren't they in 4-H around here? And so I actually started a Clover Kids and 4-H club at the school. And since then, I've asked other adults to help me with it. But, this year we have 8 kids in 4-H, which is small, but for our community, there was none before. And then we have about 19 Clover Kids. So that's under 3rd grade. So that's kindergarten to 3rd grade. And then 4th grade and up is 4-H. And so I feel like, we're just gaining momentum, and it's, people are really seeing what difference it makes in the community. And the kids are starting to realize that 4-H projects are actually really cool, and they help me learn lots of things. And so I feel like that's really neat for them to see.
Is it hard to start like as a food service expert in a school system? Is it hard to start something like that in a school that doesn't have it?
Yes and no. I feel like our school board has always been really supportive of everything that I brought to the table, which is something I'm really thankful for. And I know that not all school districts are that way. But, I did start it as like, okay, we're doing this right after school as like an after school program. And so it's now kind of evolved to less of a school-based thing and more just community. Because now we have kids that are going to different schools because we have kindergarten through 6th grade at our building. And so there's kids that are older than that, and they want to be part of our club too. And so we just had to accommodate that. So it's less of a school thing and more of a community thing. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, I feel
good for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's so cool. I would have loved someone like you in my community. I'd have been like, yeah, this is awesome.
Thanks. Thank you.
So when you were so when did you decide what college you were going to go to for dietetics? How did that process go for you?
I really decided my senior year of high school where I was going to go to college. I was asked by, several smaller schools to play volleyball. And I just decided, I was like, okay, well, my volleyball career could end after 4 years. And what am I going to do with my life after that? And so that's when I decided that I was like, okay, I need a career, not necessarily just something fun to do for 4 years. And so I decided to go to Iowa State and pursue dietetics there. And I don't regret that decision. I don't think that I missed out on volleyball or anything like that. I do wish I would have tried out for the Iowa State volleyball team at some point in time just to see, if I could have made it. But I just think it's better to pick a career choice than do something that you're good at in high school. Pick up your strengths that you have to do a job, not necessarily, what your athletic capability is, because I also got injured my sophomore year of high school. And that's what I feel like kind of opened my eyes to that too. It's like, wow, my sports career could be done in an instant and I have nothing else to fall back on. And so that really changed my mindset too, of look at how many other opportunities there are for a career, but not necessarily for sport.
And then probably the schools that were looking at you for volleyball really didn't have dietetics as an option to study.
Right. It was more of like nursing or, just other health careers that weren't, like medical drawing or things like that. And I was like, that's not really what I'm interested in. And yes, it would fit for the 4 years, but then what am I going to do with that career afterwards? And would I enjoy my time doing that?
Right.
So that was a choice I had to make. And I guess that's part of growing up. And
you can look back and be like, oh, I should have just did a couple things different, but that's okay. Sometimes it's like you have those feelings of, I wish I could have, would have, but then you're like, now I'm here and I'm really happy from what all happened. So that's another good thing.
Right. And I feel like too, one of my professors that I had in my master's degree at Southern Illinois University, she always said you shouldn't should on yourself. Like you shouldn't look back and say, oh, I should have done that. You should always put your best foot forward and do the best you can for the future. And you shouldn't should on yourself.
You said that very elegantly. So you kind of mess that up maybe on occasion, but that's really good advice though, because you just beat yourself up and it doesn't get anywhere.
Right.
Absolutely. I'm writing that one down. That's a good one.
I'll give the credit to Lynn Gill for that one. She's very, we really enjoyed having her for our master's degree classes, and she was very influential, I think, for a lot of us just moving forward and how do we get to where we want to go for our professional careers. And I just really appreciated her in our path there.
Don't you love those professors and those people that just they just like spark something in you and you're like, oh yeah, she gets it. I get her. And it all makes sense more when you're with those kind of people.
Yeah. And I hope to be one of those people too. And I hope that I'm that way to some elementary school students too, that I say something that they really latch onto and they want to live their life by. But I don't know if I am right now. I mean, elementary school kids are kind of shy about that kind of stuff, and they don't want to admit that some adult is telling me things that I actually need to know.
They don't want to admit
but I hope that I'm making an impact. Yeah.
Maybe that won't come until you're there when a full cycle. Have you been, because you haven't been there a full cycle of kids. So you'll probably have those moments as you get into it a little bit farther when they're older and they're like, I remember when you did this and it was so awesome. I learned from you. And
yeah. So, I mean, I'm hoping so, but the current kids that I had my first year, they are now I did some things with the preschool my first year. And so they're in kindergarten now, and the other kids are in second grade. So just seeing them evolve has been pretty cool.
Yeah.
And, seeing how everybody's progressed. So
that's always good.
Really neat to see people grow up.
So you went to Iowa State. Did you go directly into your master's program then, or was it a combined program?
It was a combined program. Yep. So it was the dietetic internship and the master's degree in 2 years. So I went right from Iowa State in 2014, graduated in May, and went right down to Carbondale and finished my degree and internship in the fall of 2016. And then I went right down here to Humboldt County and started doing my job at Gilmore City-Bradgate immediately after I was done.
Wow. 2 days, 1 day, or did you have a little break?
It was like 3 days, I think, before I had to report for duty. So I was under all of our paperwork for finishing the program in Carbondale, and then, moved up here, and I think I started, we got done with that on maybe a Wednesday or Thursday. I think I started on that Monday or Tuesday.
Oh my gosh. Have you always had a school kind of environment on your radar?
I don't think so. No. It just kind of was a blessing in disguise, I feel like. So my now husband's family lives up here in the area, and they saw the ad in the paper for this job that I'm currently at. And, my father-in-law now, he said, I think you'd be really good at this job, influencing kids on, what they're eating and how they're growing food. And I think you'd be really good at that. And I applied for that job and I got hired right away. And the rest is history. But
that's exciting. How big is the area? Like how many kids are in your community? Because it is a combined school, so it's a consolidated school. So it must have a few communities that are part of it. It's
small, I will say. It's very small. So there's kindergarten through sixth grade, there's 89 kids roughly. Depends on the day. I feel like who moves in and out of the district, because we have very low poverty in our area. And so I just feel like, people come because it's affordable housing. And then once they feel like they can make it, they kind of move on.
Okay.
Or vice versa. If they, feel like they can't make it in another area, they move in and they stick around for a few years and then maybe they'll transfer out. But so there's 89 kids, K through 6. But we do have increasing enrollment coming in 4-year-old preschool. We have 20 kids there, and then another, I think 23 or 26 in 3-year-old preschool. So the class sizes are getting bigger, which is encouraging.
Yeah.
But it's still small for, districts in Iowa when you think about it. And then when the kids get to 7th grade, they transfer to West Bend Mallard, and they play 8-man football, just for an idea of class size.
Oh, wow.
And so they're smaller than a 1A school. Mm-hmm.
So that is very small. Did you grow up in a small community?
I did. So I went to North Tama High School, just south of Waterloo, about 45 minutes. And that was a 1A school at the time. I graduated with 55 kids in my class.
Okay.
And so I didn't think I was ever going to, move back to a small community and do that. I always kind of had like Des Moines and Ames on my radar. It's like, that's where I want to live and what I want to do. It's always something going on. But that's not the direction that God was pulling me in. And so we just follow that path and do what's provided in front of you, I guess. Absolutely.
Well, and I think as our profession, I know that so many people struggle with finding that first job or finding a job just in general. And most people are always looking at those bigger city communities, but there are these small communities that need dietitians. And so I think it's great that you did take the leap and decided to move back to a small community, and maybe getting other people thinking about that it's not a bad deal to move into these small communities. Because obviously you're enjoying it, and you probably feel that you have maybe a little bit more freedom and more influence being in a small community as a dietitian.
Yeah, there's definitely leeway to, try things out. And if it doesn't work out, you're not losing a bunch of, you're not losing a bunch of money because you didn't enroll enough people in a certain program or things like that. I mean, you do have a little bit more freedom in trying new things and to be a bit of an entrepreneur. And I think that's important too, when you're approaching any kind of a community that you want to make a change in, is to come from kind of an entrepreneurial standpoint and say what things have or haven't been done here and what things work well in communities with a similar size, or even, maybe not similar size, and what do you want to strive for to see in your community. I think over on the northeastern side of the state, they're doing a lot of great things with community nutrition and just really getting people involved in wellness. And I think that's kind of my push, is like, man, I'd really like to see that type of community here in northwestern Iowa, and to really see that impact grow. And so I try to, peek in and see what they're doing, and is there anything I could replicate or maybe tweak a little bit to see if it'll work better for our community. So
how many people
it's
live
nice
in
to have
that community?
Sorry, go ahead.
I say, how many people live in that community?
Oh, great question. I think with a lot of small towns, it's very similar, that the population is dying out as time goes on. And, but I think there's around 480 people that live there in Gilmore City directly, but we have a lot of people that transfer in from Humboldt and Pocahontas as well. Sure. And then some people come down from West Bend to bring their kids to Gilmore City too, but around that almost 500 mark, but I don't know if that's growing. I think it's just kind of staying steady.
Sure. So are you, and I think about, and I ask that question because I feel like in those small communities, you probably get recognized pretty easily. Like do you have like a title with your job? Like, do they say, hey, you're the nutrition lady, or you're the, in a small community, I feel like you have such a good identity with your community.
Yeah. So my official title with the school is seed to table manager. So it's like growing seeds and bringing food to the table. And that's my official title. I would say people don't understand in our community what a registered dietitian does, but I'm trying to bring awareness to that, and that like all these things I'm doing is what a registered dietitian could do, and just providing a lot of nutritional background and making sure people understand where their food comes from and how it's grown. I feel like those are all things a dietitian does, but a lot of times we don't hear about that side of dietetics. And so I'm trying to bring light to that as well.
I think that's so seed to table manager. That is really interesting. I mean, like, that's very, I wonder who came up with that?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, so I didn't come up with this idea at all. It was actually a group of teachers and our superintendent, Jeff Herzberg, he's very active on Twitter. And so I feel like he found this school. It's called the Muse, M-U-S-E, school in California, in Calabasas, California, kind of a suburb of Los Angeles. And so he noted that this school was doing things like passion projects for their kids and having a lot more outdoor activities. And they had a gardening program. And they had a seed to table manager. And his name was Paul Hudak. And so then he kind of spread the word to the teachers on the staff at the time. And they kind of decided that, we have some of the most fertile ground in all of the United States. Why don't we have a gardening program? And so that's what I feel like really sparked the interest of the people at the school. And they really wanted more hands-on learning. And how do we apply what the kids need to learn in class and the standards, and how do we apply that to what's actually being done rather than giving them a worksheet to teach them what they need to learn, allowing them to dive in and really explore what those standards mean. And so that's where they came up with the idea of having a seed to table manager.
That is so forward thinking. I am like impressed. That's amazing.
I feel like we do a lot of things that are progressive, and we, even though we're a small school, I feel like we're not afraid to try new things. And, this passion project adventure has been a struggle at times. And I feel like, the more that we try it out, the better it's going to be. And the more schools that we see doing similar things, the more that we can adapt what we're doing at the school too. But yeah, I feel like this school is very progressive, and kind of the motto that we're going by is new school versus old school, or bold school versus old school. And so I feel like we're really trying to embrace that at Gilmore City-Bradgate.
That's awesome. Okay, so you have to share all the awesome things that you're doing, because I know our connection, Ann Parker, shared that you were doing some really creative and interesting things with kids and with food. And so please kind of tell me how that all kind of transpired for you over the years that you've been there.
Sure. So kind of the first year that I came here, they made a spot in the schedule to have a gardening specials class. And so just like they have PE and art and music, they have gardening for a specials class. And so with that, I get to have each class for about half an hour each time. And so one of the first projects too that I was assigned was put up a school greenhouse. And at the time I was like, I don't know anything about construction and I don't know how to do that. But I've learned a lot since that first month or so, because we ended up got hired in August and we had the greenhouse done by November. So very quick pace, and figuring all that out, and like figuring out who are the contractors nearby that can help me out with all this stuff and things like that. But so we put up a school greenhouse, and we've always had a school garden. One of the other first projects that we did is, I invited Iowa State University Extension and outreach people from Humboldt County and the Pocahontas County Conservation, because we're right on the county line between Humboldt and Pocahontas. So we kind of deal with them a lot, both counties. So we invited all of them over, and we planted a bunch of fruit trees out front. So we have apple, pear, cherry trees that we all planted in this, what's now our orchard space.
Oh, wow.
So we've done that. And then kind of from there, we realized that I don't have a classroom. And so I was just going to the classes and teaching the kids at that time. But it was really hard for teachers to get, their prep period done and get them to do what they needed to do while there were kids in their classroom. So we turned a locker room that wasn't being used anymore into what's now called the learning kitchen. So if you can imagine, almost like an FCS kitchen type setup. We just, tore out the benches in the locker room and sealed off the floor, put in new flooring, put in cabinets and countertops and stoves and sinks and that sort of thing. So we have the learning kitchen now. And so because of that, we started a Little Chefs Club. And originally I was doing that by myself, but I had like 19 kids signed up for a Little Chefs Club. And I was like, I can't watch all these little hands by myself.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to cut their finger off.
Yeah. That's a lot of kids.
It was, yeah. And so I ended up asking our school food service director, who's a good friend of mine now, Tiffany Thumma. She helped me out with the Little Chefs Club program. And her training was at Iowa Central Community College in the culinary program. And so I feel like it was a really good fit for us to work together with those kids.
Sure.
And so we have Little Chefs Club and we have a gardening club after school. Every other, well, it depends on the semester, but every other Monday for this semester, we alternate gardening club and Little Chefs Club. And I have about 23 kids signed up for gardening club too.
Wow.
And we just, do things out in the greenhouse or in the garden, whatever might be needed, or, and they help me plan for the garden this year as well. And we've been transplanting a lot of plants in the greenhouse to get ready for our plant sale this spring.
So you do.
We've done the plant sale now.
Oh, okay.
For 3 years.
So you grow plants, and the community can come and buy plants for their own homes.
Yep. So we do that, and we try not, because there is a greenhouse in the community as well, like a commercial greenhouse. So we try not to grow too many things, but, just saying that, like, hey, your kid grew this tomato plant. Like, would you like to come buy it? It's kind of cool for the community to do that. So we just grow a few things for that. And let's see. So kind of after that, we kind of evolved into this Monarch station. So dealing with the Monarch butterfly, and we got pretty involved with that. And so I wrote a grant last year to put together a monarch rearing facility, to be able to grow monarchs all throughout the winter time. So I got a grant for that last year, and we're just finishing up kind of construction on that room, and we should have butterflies in there by next fall to overwinter and grow in there all year long.
Oh,
so that'll be pretty cool for the kids to be able to really take care of them on their own. It's what I'm hoping. Fingers crossed. And then we had a couple community members that came in a couple of springs ago, and they were alum of the school, and they said, we have all these extra grapevines that they have they grow their own grapes and sell them to the wineries around here. And they said, well, we have all these extra grapes. Would you guys like them? And I said, yes, I would. So they helped us to install, the grapevines and grape. And I think we have 3 varieties out there now. A few of them have died off and we've replanted them. But we have grapevines and we have aronia bushes that when I worked at the USDA in Ames, I worked with a gentleman that does research on aronia bushes in Virginia. So he shipped little baby aronia bushes through the mail, and we planted those out there, and we have 16 of those. So that's pretty cool. That's all in the orchard area. And now I feel like the school board has always been asking me ever since I started, like, why can't we have honeybees? And I'm like, well, I don't know anything about honeybees, and I don't really want to run the risk of not knowing and killing them all and having kids get hurt in the process. So. Sure. But I've been doing a lot of research since then, and so this plan is finally coming together to just pass city council approval on Monday, but to get a honey house and to get honeybees at the school. So I'm currently writing a $25,000 grant, which kind of terrifies me. It's a large grant, and so trying to put together all the bids for that and things right now. But yeah, that's a little bit about the timeline about how things have gone. But any of our gardening classes, I feel like it's all student driven, based on what they're learning in class and what they're interested in. So I feel like I very rarely taught the same lesson twice. So for example, the kids wanted to learn about the preschool class, really kind of led this one. So 4-year-old preschool, they were learning about clothing and textiles and that sort of thing. So we did a unit on cotton and wool, and we had my friend that she does research at Iowa State. She went and got cotton seeds for us from when she harvested in Alabama and Texas, and she sent them to us. So we're starting to grow those, trying to figure that out. And then we had a local sheep producer come in with their sheep this fall. show us a couple of their sheep and kind of all the different things that can be made out of wool. And then this spring, we're hoping to take the kindergarten class out to that sheep farm to see all the baby sheep and kind of how that's different from, these mama sheep, the ewes, they produce wool in the off season, but like right now, their main priority is to raise their babies. And how does that look different from what they learned about in the fall? So that's been kind of a full circle project that has been really neat. And I think the kids anytime that you bring livestock into the classroom, they get really excited. Anything that
I would too.
Anything that breathes and moves is pretty exciting, I feel like.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Oh my God.
That same preschool class is, and they've been doing this for years before I ever came. The preschool and first grade class have always hatched out chicks in their classroom. And right now, the preschool class, I don't think that they know it yet, but I've put marks on a few eggs, and we're hatching out our new school chickens. We've had school chickens since I started, and they're just getting old, and so they need to be replaced. And so the preschool class is going to be hatching out our new school chickens to keep on the grounds, and so that's been really exciting. They're on day 18, so they have a few days left before they hatch, but they're getting really excited.
I was going to ask if you had chickens, if that was another project that you had going on.
Yes. That first year that I started, the local Baumgars manager, got wind of our projects and what we were doing. And he asked if we wanted some of the leftover laying chicks that they had. And I said, sure, I have to ask city council. And, I asked city council, and, it's against the ordinance to have more than, it was 5 chicks at the time, or 5 hens. And so I was like, okay, well, can I get 5 at the school? And they eventually said yes, it wasn't a problem. And so, we've had school chickens. They also, that Baumgars manager, his name was Jeremy, he came and helped the kids build a chicken tractor. The kids came up with a plan. They figured out what kind of supplies they needed and how much that was going to cost as part of their math projects. And then they put it together a few afternoons. I think it took 3 days to finish it. And then they painted it, and it's currently sitting at my house. It's their overwintering site. And then we've converted the old gardening shed into the chicken house. And then we moved an old concession stand to be our garden shed. And we're hoping that we can sell produce out of that shed as well. Like when they have home baseball games and things too.
Oh my gosh. That is such a great idea. I mean, it's like all full circle. I think that's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like that's how we try and teach the kids. It's like, it's not just a project that you go through just to get the standard done and then you're done with it. Like, this means more than just a standard in your book you have to learn this year. It's, it's real life, and this is how it is applied to your real life. And we're trying to make, educated kids that are, going to contribute to society someday. And I think that's really important for our school.
Well, just like the fact that you can tie in, we can tie in architecture, we can tie in math, and we can tie in, food. I mean, there's so many different aspects that you can tie into education. And I think that's amazing.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
We
try to incorporate.
Were you part of a farming kind of community? Do you like to garden? Do you like to grow things? Is that something that you enjoy?
Yeah, I did grow up in a farming community, and another one of those 4-H things is I started to have a vegetable and a flower garden when I got a little bit older, and my mom was like, yeah, you can actually do this on your own. And so, I did show, per se. So you have a garden tour where the judges come out and see how well your garden is put together. And so I did do that, but I hadn't had a garden for, since high school. And so it's, there are some things that I've never grown before that I'm like, the kids want to try it. So we're going to figure out how to grow that.
Yeah. Why not?
So that's been great. Just trying to figure out, like, for example, I've never grown broccoli before, and it's actually really easy to grow, I feel. And I'm like, why have I never tried to grow broccoli before? So it's one of those things
that hard.
Like, oh yeah, well, why not try it out and let the kids see what it's like, and then we can problem solve, and the next year we can do it a little bit better. So yeah, I do like to garden. I like to be outside. That's really what I enjoy, is I like to be outside, especially in the summertime. And I do have a really great student leader. Her name's Lily, that she helps me pretty much every day in the summer. And that'll be, whatever time I say that we're going to meet the next day, I text her mom and I say, it's going to be really hot today. I think we should be there at 5:30. And she'll be like, okay, Lily's ready to go.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Even at 5:30.
Yeah. So we get there early on some days, and some days, if it's not going to be so hot, we go a little bit later. And the daycare kids that are at the school, so we have a daycare within our school building. And so all throughout the summer, those kids are in daycare. They'll come out and help sometimes too in the garden. So that's nice too, but it's always nice to get extra hands in the garden. And so we have a couple of master gardeners in the area and things that help too. But that's nice. I really like to be out in the garden and just to be outside. And there's just something fulfilling about getting your hands dirty and pulling weeds. And I don't know, it's just humbling and fulfilling at the same time, I feel like.
And it sounds like, yes, you do lots of good hands-on stuff, but applying for grants and talking to the city council and all of that stuff, that is very time consuming. So how do you kind of work through that? And no one probably taught you how to write a grant when you were going through school. So how did you navigate all that?
Great question. Well, I feel like there's, a little bit of downtime considering how Iowa winters are. So I feel like I have a little bit of downtime to be able to write grants. Kind of when I started, I was like, what am I going to do all winter long? Especially, before I really figured out how to run the greenhouse, I was like, I don't really know what I'm going to do all winter long. And, the more I got into it, I was like, it'd be really cool to have a tasting cart for our school to, try new things. It'd be really cool for our school to have a growing tower for our school to be able to, not use so much space in the greenhouse. And so I was like, I don't feel comfortable asking the school board for a ton of money. And, chicken feed is one thing, a $10 bag of feed that I need once every 3 months. But it's something a little different when you have to ask for a $2,000 item. And I don't really feel comfortable doing that. And I was like, okay, well, there's got to be some way to get money to do these things. And that's where the grant writing really came in. And I feel like, honestly, back to the 4-H thing, the 4-H projects really helped me to be able to write well, just be able to write write-ups and be able to get your point across and tell the judges, when your project goes to the state fair, you don't sit down in front of the judges and your write-up has to stand alone and tell them what exactly you did and how you did it. And it really needs to show the judges that. So I feel like that really helped me in my grant writing skills, was being able to write those write-ups way back in junior high and high school. Man, 4-H has done so much for me.
I think that's a common method or common kind of theory for you right now.
Yeah. And so, I just honestly, I started with a lot smaller grants in grant writing, and I was like, here's the things that they want. Here's my deadline. How early do I have to start in order to get a grant done? For me personally, because I have other stuff going on too. And it's like, the more I did it, the easier it got. And there are quite a few grants I applied for that I didn't get, to be quite honest. And that's okay. It doesn't hurt to apply and be told no. If you didn't apply, you're always going to be told no and not get that chance to get grant money and improvements for your school or community. So,
do you have a
I did.
You have a comment? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. What?
No, go ahead. It cut out a little bit. What'd you say?
Oh, I was just asking, is there a place that you find grants? How do you find them for you to apply?
Sure. So a couple of places are really key for me. So I feel like the Iowa Ag Literacy Foundation, they post really, specific grants that if you want to do something ag-based and teach something in the classroom related to agriculture, they have really good ones. And for that purpose, otherwise, there's a lot from Team Nutrition and the Iowa Department of Ag. They put out quite a few. But otherwise, I'm on a bunch of different listservs, and I just look through their newsletters whenever they get them. And a lot of times they'll put on their different grant opportunities. And, it might be something local, or it might be something, throughout the United States, that Annie's Garden Grant that I've applied for every year. I've never gotten it. I'm not sure why. But so like Annie's is like the organic version of like crackers and that sort of thing. And they have cereals.
Oh, yeah.
And so they have a grant and for gardens. And I mean, you can just literally type into Google grants for school gardens or grants for whatever you're looking for. And a lot of them will pop up. But you have to be careful when you look to that it's for that year that you're applying for, because some of them are outdated and they don't take them off their website. So I've learned that one too. Where it's like, I started that. And I'm like, oh, wait, that doesn't seem right. And then I look and it's, for the year previous or whatever it might be. So, yeah.
But you said you were saying that you did get a certain grant that you were really proud of?
Yeah, the America's Farmers Grow Real Education grant. It was for $10,000 last year, and it was for that Monarch rearing room. So we have, it's like a giant incubator in that room. And so we needed heat and lighting and humidity in there and cages to grow the butterflies in. And I actually wrote that grant to get lights in the greenhouse so we could grow milkweed a little bit better, and benches for the greenhouse too. That way we have the space to grow milkweed on. Because before that, honestly, what I used to grow on is I went to Dollar General and they had a few 6-foot tables that were somewhat broken that were on super clearance, and I got those. And then the rest of them were our old school risers that they had built 40 years ago that were just, they wanted something different that was easier to move between the gym and the lunchroom for different programs. And so they took those out and they were going to put them on the curb. And I was like, I think I could use those for a few years. And I covered them with plastic and used them for 2 years. And I was like, okay, they had their, they can only get wet so long. They're made out of wood. And so, yeah, I mean, I feel like that's another thing that goes really well with my program. Is like, you have to be creative, you have to be innovative, and you have to, kind of figure out what are things that I can use in order to get me by until something better comes along. I feel like those have been things that I really try to do. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm a little stingy with money. I'm like, I don't need to spend thousands of dollars for benches. I can just find something that'll work for now. And
sure.
Yeah, I feel like
you're resourceful. You're very resourceful.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
So what do you kind of see? I think the Monarch room sounds amazing. And what kind of things do you envision yourself doing this position for a long time and just keep growing it and getting new things?
I hope so. I hope that, our size of our school doesn't lend itself to being consolidated with other school districts just because of our size. But I do hope that I can continue the program and, keep influencing the kids on, where their food comes from and how nutritional it is, the nutrients it provides to your body and things like that. I think that's really important. Even if I'm not in this position, I feel like maybe community is where I'm supposed to be at, community nutrition, and just being able to do innovative things like this and, just educating people on where their food comes from. I don't know. I feel like agriculture is really important in dietetics, and I feel like a lot of times it's overlooked. And I feel like that's maybe where I'm supposed to be at, is somewhere within agriculture, educating people. But I hope that our school stays open, but I can't guarantee that, I guess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sure. Well, you're developing so many great things. So I think if something did happen, there would always be, maybe there'd be another seed to table manager somewhere else that would be available. It sounds like it's something that is in places that I never knew of before.
I hope.
So exciting. You're so innovative.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's kind of like you've created your own kind of dietitian role and you can just keep building upon it as you find the need and your interest.
Yeah. I wish more schools had the budget to put in a seat-to-table manager, because I feel like so often whenever I go to conferences and things, people are like, well, how do you do that? Are you paid by the school? And it's like, yes, I'm paid by the school. And they're like, well, where does that budget come from? I'm like, I don't know. Our school board makes it work because they know it's important. But, other schools, their teachers come in throughout the summer and then they're burnt out because they're working all summer long in the garden. and they have to go teach all year long. And so I feel like that doesn't work. And so I feel like you almost need a separate person, whether that's, somebody in public health or a dietitian or whatever it might be. I feel like you definitely need a different person to be able to do all these things. Because it's a full-time job in itself. And I can't imagine having a teacher trying to do everything that I'm doing, plus teach the kids every day. That would be really easy to get burned out on, for sure. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Yeah. And having 19 kids for 2 hours is plenty long, I will say. So yeah, kids are exhausting. Yes. And especially elementary school kids, like they're all full of energy and you need a way for them to rein it in. And so just coming up with ways to, whether it's a call out or whatever it is to get them on task. And so, yeah, but they are exhausting, but I just hope that, I have more kids like Lily that I'm impacting down the road, and that are really, really interested in what we're teaching. But, I feel like in bigger communities like Des Moines or Ames, like they have food corps members that do similar things to what I'm doing, but they're, volunteers through the food corps. Mm-hmm. And so they're given a stipend. I couldn't tell you how much that's for, but, they're given a small stipend to work for the year. And, but they're mainly volunteer based, but it is a separate person that's teaching gardening related information and nutrition, and they're taking care of the garden. So it's like, man, if we could just get food corps members everywhere, that would be awesome. But it's also nice to have a paying job as well. Yes.
Yes, it is. So I feel like I feel like with how society is right now, just how there is more interest in seed to table and there is more interest in farm to table, and knowing where it comes from, I feel like we'll see an increase in more of this type of things in all communities, maybe just a slow increase, but I don't, I guess
I think we're starting to see that. Last year, the Regional Food System Working Group put together, and they're a section off of the Iowa State University Extension and Outreach. They started to put together an Iowa Farm to School conference, and they're expecting it to be even larger this year. And it's going to be June 21st and 22nd at Central College in Pella. And I think they're expecting like a time and a half of what they, for participants that they had from last year. So I think that alone speaks volumes to how much we're increasing in efforts around the state and just nationally as well. I just got a call last week from the National Farm School Network wanting to know what I was doing. And I was like, wow, so people in Maryland are hearing of what I'm doing, and that's really cool. But yeah, I mean, I feel like we're getting there. It's just taking it's the snowball starting at the top of the hill, and I feel like we're just gaining momentum, but it's just taking some time.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Do you go and speak to groups about what you're doing? Like, have you gone to different affiliates or academy groups
I haven't
to speak
gone
about
to
what you're doing, or school groups?
Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics groups to talk about what I'm doing necessarily, but I should. But I've talked to my superintendent and I went and presented about my program last year at the Iowa School Board Convention. We've talked there about it. We went to the National Rural Education Symposium in Ohio last year, and we presented there about it as well. And just I had a training recently that I put on for other schools to figure out, how are you going to go about having a school garden? And, we had 4 participants, which I was kind of like, maybe I won't have any. So 4 was really good to start with. And I'm hoping that I'll have another one next winter to get people started on, how do you have a school garden type deal. But yeah, the more.
That's awesome. You should put some proposals in for like academies, because I think that would be a great topic across the United States for all the states. Yeah. That would be something that you would be great for.
Yeah. So, no, I should. That out thank you. I should do that. It's just one of those things. It's like, gotta find time for it. But yeah, I definitely should. I do think it's important to spread the news about, not only here's what dietitians have been doing in the past, but here's maybe a new avenue for them to be in. I think that's really important as well.
And Yeah, and to even approach a school district or even a school that you're in a community of with the option of starting something, I think that's a great
definitely
place for dietitians space they could be in.
Okay.
Very cool. Okay, I have one last question. So tell me your hours. So how do you manage because like you said, the winter is a lot of downtime and then it definitely picks up this time of year. What are kind of your hours? What do you
really good question. I would say that I'm supposed to work 40 hours a week. That sometimes doesn't always happen, both less than and sometimes way more than. So my superintendent and I have kind of come to an agreement that, maybe it's this week because I had a seated table training and I'm doing Little Chefs Club until 5 some night. And I have a community event this week that next week you can take off the amount of hours that you worked extra for the previous week. So I'm supposed to work 40 hours a week. I would say no 2 to 8. Nice. I don't ever come in the same time or leave the same time, any day during the week. So days I have Little Chefs Club until 5, I don't come in until 9 in the morning. Usually it's what I try and shoot for, unless I have a bunch of other things I need to plan for. But then, I went to city council on Monday. I was there until about 8. So it's I had to take off a little bit of time this morning to accommodate for that. So I'm thankful that I'm not you have to work 7 to 3:30 every day. I'm thankful that that's not that way and that the school board and the superintendent are flexible that way. And I just have to clock in. I'm paid hourly. And so I think that's kind of the way it needs to be, because if you had another dietitian that was trying to do all the things I was doing, I don't think you could be salary and feel like you were being treated fairly for your time. I definitely think you need to be hourly in order to really track. Yeah. I'm working XYZ hours this week and, that the following week. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Yeah. One of my professors, Lynn Campbell, in undergrad, she always said, document your worth. I think that's really important, especially now. I'm not only, documenting what I've done, but documenting your time, I think is really important. And, I think I saw that in my internship program a lot, where a lot of people would bring a lot of stuff home and work on it at home, but they weren't compensated for that time. And I'm those people said, I've only been working here for 5 years, and this was at a DHS rotation working for WIC. And, they said, I have only been working at this for 5 years, but I'm so burnt out because I'm working constantly 16 hours a day because I take my stuff home. And, I think I saw that and it was why do that when you're only paid 40 hours a week? And sure, I do think document what you're worth and, get paid and compensated that time. Because if you don't, I feel like more dietitians suffer on the hind end and not being able to, dietitians are worth more, and they're doing what we're not getting paid for.
It's the life-work balance that we have to find. Otherwise, you will. Well, is there a place that I can share with my guests that to see? Do you have a place that social media place that we can see all the cool things that you're doing?
Yeah, so we are on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can hopefully find all of those by typing and there are different handles for each place. But even if you find me, Kelsey Wigans, obviously you should be able to see where I'm down to other pages for Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So, yeah.
I will put that in the show notes because I'm going to be a follower because I'm so interested in all the things that you're doing. Yes, and I hope this has an interest with some of my guests because I think it's just a really cool opportunity for a dietitian. Absolutely. Okay, well, I have to ask you some hard questions. At the end of my podcast, I ask everyone these questions. So share with me some of the foods that you enjoy.
Yeah, so those are some of my favorite foods. Let's see. Man, I really also enjoy ice cream on occasion. Yep, I'm a normal human being too that likes food as well.
Absolutely. Ice cream's always good, especially after working out in the greenhouse on a hot summer day. I bet you it's delicious. Do you have a favorite scent or a smell?
Oh, good question. I enjoy fresh linen smells, fresh cotton, fresh laundry smells. You hung your clothes out in the line, they smell like
That is the best smell.
Yeah.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's actually a company that we have been doing fundraisers with called J&J Candles around here. And they have some scents like fresh hay. They have Iowa, and it smells like dirt. It really smells like soil. Yeah. And I'm like, do people actually buy that to like burn in their house? And she's like, yeah.
Seriously?
So there's that. Yeah. J&J Candles. Pretty cool. So,
Right.
yeah. I don't think I'd buy a dirt candle, but. No.
I'm going to look that up.
Yes. Yeah.
No, probably not. But I like the unique scents. That's fun. Do you have a favorite color or colors?
I really enjoy like purples, lavenders, and that was actually part of my wedding colors this year was like purples and pinks and greens and whites all put together. Something, somewhat floral but natural at the same time. I really enjoy that.
You got married this year too?
I did. Yeah, I got married a couple months before Anne did. Anne Parker. So.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's fun.
Thank you.
What brings you joy in life, my dear?
I feel like my church family really brings me joy in life. I just find so much happiness in meeting with them and talking about the gospel, and I really enjoy that.
That's special. It's good that you have so many different special communities that you live within in the place that you. That's so fun.
Yeah.
With so much going on. I don't know how you manage it all, but
thanks. Well, you're very busy too. I mean, you're on podcasts and you're doing everything with Hy-Vee, and you're very busy as well. So
we always make time for the things that we love, though, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's always important. Is make time for what's important to you, and maybe to make less time for what's not so important.
No, that's so true. And say no to some things. You don't have to say yes to everything, right?
Oh, yeah. Dietitians, though, I feel like we always say yes.
We do. So, we do. We need to change that. Yeah, we do need to change
We're definitely people pleasers. Yeah. It's okay to say no every once in a while.
I 100% agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for today's conversation. I look forward to following all the cool stuff you're doing. I hope all my guests follow you too, because such a neat adventure to be on with you just through your photos and things. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on today. I appreciate it so much.
Maybe we can do it again like in a year and just kind of talk about what you're doing next and all the fun things that you're doing.
Sure. That sounds like a plan. Yeah.
How cool is the seed to table manager position within a school system? After doing a little research, there's different positions like this all over the country. I think it's a great role for registered dietitians to apply for and to be in. Kelsey is creating such outstanding programs and education at her schools, and I really highly suggest you follow her this spring and summer. This season will bring lots of creative ideas that she'll show on their website and also on their Facebook. So please make sure that you go to the show notes and find those connections and sign up to follow and reach out to her if you have any questions. My website, AnnElizabethRD.com, is where you can read my latest Embrace the Hell Yeah blog post, as well as all my previous podcasts, show notes, and links to things we talked about during all my great conversations. My book is also available to purchase on the website, and I will be featuring a new CEU component on the website soon, so stay tuned. I hope we can connect more on social media by finding me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest at AnnElizabethRD. Remember to be great always, find the joy in each day, and to start a conversation that truly matters.